Hello and welcome back to the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today we are continuing the series on customer service. I don't know if we're going to do any more. I actually forgot about this part, to be honest. I've been pretty busy doing, unfun customer service stuff, funnily enough. And also just trying to figure out life. This year was a creative. What's the word I'm looking for? I didn't get as much creative stuff done as I wanted to. Sometimes it's like that when you're chasing your dreams, chasing creative stuff, and yeah, when that happens, you end up falling into customer service jobs, and sometimes it can be brutal. I was on set the other day, and thank God I was on set. I was so happy. I was so happy to be back on set, acting with people, and there were bonkers moments, but I loved every second of it. I love acting. I love filmmaking. I love the creative industries, be it acting, music, content creation. I don't care what it is. I want to be a part of that. That's what I was born to do. And just being around those people, it's my people, man. I feel at home. And there was a girl there, quite a young actress, and we were just talking about jobs outside of acting, and she said that she had to get up at 4 a.m. for her work. And I was like, oh. And I immediately knew how she felt, because I've done it like a million times. And I'll be going to work after this podcast is complete today. Complete, my words are... I'm still waking up, but I wanted to just jump into this. Customer service takes a lot from you. It really does. And we're going to get into that today, because this is kind of like the closing chapter, I suppose. So we'll really kind of get into the nitty-gritty and my thoughts on customer service, because I've tried to give quite a balanced opinion. I've been quite forthcoming with negative opinions, but I've tried to sprinkle some positive stuff there as well, because obviously there is the big question, well, why would you do something you hate? And we'll get to that. But in anything in life, I always try to see and find the positives as much as I possibly can. And even in something I hate, there's always potential opportunities. There's always things you can draw upon, but if you're doing too much of something you don't like and not enough of what you love, it's not where you want to be, and you feel stuck. But as I'm glancing at these questions, this is touching on a lot of the stuff I'm going to cover, so I'm just going to get into the questions and we'll kind of go from there. Thank you so much for watching this series. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Christian Reeve Podcast. I am aware there are people that just listen to the show, which is perfectly valid. It's a podcast. It should be about the listening experience and not just about seeing what you see on screen. I don't know. I can't fathom the idea that people would want to sit and listen to my voice, to be honest. But there's a few of you, so thank you. And I hope that you're enjoying the show. I wasn't planning on getting sentimental, but you know what? 5 years, 341 episodes. And, I went from entering the new year with like no shows lined up and just feeling really deflated to having a completely full January now of guests coming up and just being excited about the show again. And that's what I always want to feel like with this podcast. I'm gonna throw more energy into it and try to get more guests off my own back rather than just relying on. Hopefully, people might see the form or reach out. It's lazy. I've become lazy, even though I'm not a lazy guy. And I think, ironically, part of that is feeling deflated from not getting enough creative work and not having enough opportunities. But sometimes you really just have to take the bull by the horns and take more control and kind of force it. So I'm going to try and force life to give me more opportunities, and hopefully, with any luck, my life might change for the better. Who knows? Maybe 2026 is my year, as cringe as that sounds. Question number 1, why do you keep working in customer service even though you dislike it? Now, it's a great question because over the years, I've had a lot of people say things like, well, why don't you just quit if you hate it that much? Why don't you just get a new job? I don't understand. Now, the key in that response is, I don't understand. Yeah, you don't understand. If you're not living my life, if you're not in my position, then you'll never understand. The only people that ever tend to understand where I'm coming from are people that sit and actually listen to my story and then go, oh, or creatives. Ironically, I don't even have to explain it to creatives. They just get me within 5 seconds because they're dealing with the same battles. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be a creative to understand. It's just that a key thing to keep in mind is that when you're a creative, when you're an artist, whatever, you approach life in a completely different way. So if you're working full-time in customer service, or you're working like a 9-to-5 office job or whatever, the way you live your life is completely different. So of course you're going to look at someone like me and think I'm insane for the way that I approach life. But you have to remember that I'm not some airhead who just doesn't understand life and doesn't know what they're doing. There are people like that out in the world that just kind of bounce from thing to thing and are kind of clueless. But I'm a 32-year-old man. I've been doing this a long time. I know what I'm doing. Do I know everything all the time? Absolutely not. Do I have it all figured out? Absolutely not. But I can tell you from having worked in a lot of different jobs over the years, seeing what's out there, I've kind of cultivated a life that enables me to make money and survive, albeit just about, while also being able to pursue creative jobs. So that's kind of like maybe number 1 reason why I keep working in customer service, and like I said, I try to sing its praises. Customer service is one of the only types of industries out there that enables creatives to be able to pursue what they need to pursue, like be it acting gigs or music or whatever. Like if you're in a 9-to-5, try turning around to your boss and saying, oh, can I just get Wednesday off? Can someone cover me? That's going to be an instant no. If you're lucky and you have a good relationship with them, maybe you might get a last minute holiday, or they might allow you to take unpaid leave. Very unlikely in that kind of a job. In customer service, much more likely. Someone can cover my shift. I can take unpaid leave. As a casual worker, for example, I can just not work the shift. Obviously there are consequences to that, and I have to work with managers to be like, okay, let's try and arrange some cover. Is it going to affect the team? So on and so forth. You got to think about things like that, because everything that you do has a consequence on the team and on the business and so on. But I manage to maintain good relationships with the managers that I work with because I try to be fair with how I do things. So, I'll sacrifice my time. I don't care about working Saturdays, for example. I'll work them if I have to. It's not a big deal for me. But like it's kind of like I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of mentality. And customer service is fantastic for that. And there's a lot of different types of contracts out there. Like I mentioned the 0 hours contract, which basically is a situation where you're not guaranteed any hours, but you also don't have to guarantee your availability either, which for someone like me is perfect. I can say, oh, okay, I'm available for these days, but not these days. And they can work around that. The danger of it is, for example, I'm entering next year and one of my jobs has no hours. They just won't have any work because there's no events on. And they let us know ahead of time, which is fantastic, but it makes things trickier in terms of like finding work and like obviously entering a new year. What am I going to do? Like it's just part of how it is, unfortunately. But this is where like when you're getting, say, a few acting gigs, a few, music gigs, whatever, and you're getting paid for those, it kind of balances out. Because I've seen a lot of people online say things like, oh, if you're not earning from, say, acting or music, then you can't call yourself a professional. Well, I can, because I have earned from those fields. And I've earned consistently. Sometimes it's been my main source of income. But I don't think that is a valid opinion, to be honest. I think a lot of the time when people dismiss it and call it a hobby or whatever, it just kind of sounds like they're a bit butthurt. Like, I mean, it's not your field anyway. So why are people so aggressive with their opinions on these things? That's the thing. Like, I've had people attack me for talking about like why I don't like the 9 to 5. Like, they think that like I'm having a go at people and being like, oh, screw you and your job. Like, no, I'm just saying that I've tried it. It's not for me, but it is for you. And that's fine. So why do people get so pressed, vexed, as the kids say, like just so annoyed? I don't understand. I think it's because like they take it personally, even though it's a job. And like for some people, a job is everything to them. It's their career. It's their passion in life. I completely understand. That's why I try to do creative jobs, because that's how I feel about them. But I don't get upset when people criticize what I do for a living. Like if they criticize me for being an actor or a musician or a content creator or even just doing customer service stuff. Like, even though I don't identify it as my career or whatever, like I don't care what people think. I do it because I have to do it. I do it because it enables me to pursue the things that I need to pursue. But random people, or anyone actually, I've had this since I was a kid, just people criticizing and being like, well, you should live life like this. You should do it the way that I did it. You should do things this way because what you're doing doesn't make sense. And it's like, how would you know? Are you living my life? No, you're not. I'm not saying that people's opinions are not valid. I'll turn that down. But at the same time, like, people allow themselves a lot of freedom when it comes to their opinions and kind of demanding that you A, take them on board, and B, do what they say. And if you don't do what they say, then somehow you're an idiot. And it's like, that's just not true. I mean, with acting and music and things like that, these things can take years to take off. I mean, as it stands, and I've said this many times, my goal is to earn from creative jobs for a living. Now, I'm open to what that could be, whether it be a career in TV, radio, as a musician, as an actor, as a voice actor, content creator. I'm open to all of it. I just want to earn from doing these jobs and not have to rely on customer service anymore, or indeed any other type of job. I feel that that's quite clear. I feel I'm very clear with my goal, and I managed to live like this very successfully. It's hard, it's a struggle, and I'm like many creatives, I basically never have any money, but I'm able to, for example, be off whenever I need to be. I'm able to spend time with my loved ones whenever I need to be. Like, whenever if it's like, oh, hey, we got this coming up, I can be free. Can you say the same? If you're locked into a contract job, they basically own you. And that terrifies me. This is another reason why I don't, I work in customer service and I don't work in, say, a 9 to 5 job. Because a big point which I think is a valid point is, but there's more certainty in, say, having a 9 to 5, or indeed having a full-time career in customer service, because you get like, a set amount of pay every month. Isn't that more reliable? Isn't that safe? And it's like, there's no such thing as job security anymore. There hasn't been for a very long time. Loyalty doesn't mean anything. I've seen people get fired after like dedicating their whole life to something, or dedicating like several years to a project, or, like completely coming in and changing a place for the better and getting fired because someone didn't like them. Like, loyalty doesn't count for shit. You have to watch your back at all times and have a contingency plan. Have, a second plan, a third plan, which I always do. I always have something I can walk into, a way that I can protect myself. And I've learned to do that over the years. So for all the people that think I'm an airhead or I don't know what I'm doing, more fool you. I've looked at each and every part of this and gone, this is what works for me. This is what allows me to survive. another aspect to this is that at the end of the day, I can quit whenever I want. Like that. I don't have like really long-winded, notice periods. You know, there's no commitments. I'm not stuck, locked into a big contract. I can walk away at any point. It's perfect for me. You know, I can go jump on a plane tomorrow and film something abroad like that. And like that freedom is a big part of why I keep using this type of industry, because not many industries would enable you to have this flexibility. And the good thing about these industries is that they understand that they're getting people from all walks of life. Yes, you've got some career lifers, but you're getting a lot of students. Like a lot of these jobs rely heavily on students. And if you're lucky, you're getting them for 3 years, you know, during the key periods. And obviously you lose them at holidays and stuff. But you're getting that flexibility. And often students will be more flexible than most. And then, you know, you might get a few people like my age who maybe they're using it as a stepping stone, or maybe they're just trying to transition into something else. And then you get the lifers. And you make up a team from that. And if you're lucky, it'll be a good team. If not, you're going to struggle. But managers are well aware of this. And I've been able to, over the years, form some pretty good connections with managers by working with them and just kind of making sure that we're covering all the bases. So they make sure that I have the hours I need and the flexibility I need. And then I make sure that I'm there as much as I can be, say, as a reserve option. Like, hey, I'll come work these shifts last minute. I'll be flexible with my time. I'll work more shifts than I'm supposed to. You know, it's business. I think people forget a lot of the time that you can negotiate. Even in a standard job, like a part-time job, you can negotiate. You can always negotiate. I think people just seem to think like if you've got something on a paper and it says option A or option B, that's all you've got in life. And it's not true. There's option Z. There's option H. You know, like make your own options. People might not always go for them, but outline what you want. Ask for what you want. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you'll get it. We'll move on. What kind of freedom does it give you that other jobs might not? So I think I've kind of answered this quite well, but I'll expand on this a little bit more. So with customer service, you're dealing with hours as opposed to periods, you know. So in a standard 9 to 5, you know, it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 or 8 till 6, 8 till 4, something like that, right? It's very set. There's no real room for flexibility. Some jobs, if you've got a really decent manager, might let you, you know, drop off work a little bit earlier, and maybe you come in a little bit earlier the next day or something. But a lot of the time it's very rigid and there's not really much room for flexibility. Whereas with customer service, it's very common, you know. Often you don't even have to make up the hours. You know, they just either won't pay you for the hours or you just make them up somewhere else. And I think that freedom is invaluable. And so many jobs just aren't able to grant that, to be honest. How do you balance survival with chasing your creative goals? See, this is the tough part. This year was very tough for me. I didn't survive very well. I ended up like, I still to this day, I barely eat. It's, you know, one meal a day if I'm lucky. And sometimes that meal is just like a meal deal from Tesco or something. So at its worst, it can be tricky. It can be difficult. And you've just kind of got to hang in there and push through it. But it does mean, again, that at some point you will be available for other things, and things can change quickly. You know, things can change in an instant. But once you're locked in, you're locked in. There's nothing you can do about it. I tend to balance it out by planning ahead. You know, I use like spreadsheet documents and stuff. I sit down, I plan it out, map it out, see how much money I've got, and then make sure that just like the bills are paid first and foremost. And then how much do I realistically have to live on? And, a lot of the time it's nothing. And, I make use of things like one place might have free meals, one place might have cheaper staff meals. I try to make use of that. Reducing spending as much as humanly possible. I mean, the only thing I'm ever really buying is food, to be honest. I can't remember the last time I bought myself like clothes or a thing that I wanted. Like that's a big thing about my position. People say like, oh, are you going to go on holiday this year? Are you going to spend money on this, on that? And it's like, I don't have money. Like, sometimes I allow myself a few drinks here and there at like an open mic night, or, I might see some friends after a film event and have a few drinks. But when I say a few, I mean a few. Like, because I just don't have money. And that's the sucky part about this. But until you're getting like a kind of a sustainable income from something, that's the reality, And next year I really want to try to shift things for myself so that I'm actually earning through creative jobs consistently. I need to make some big changes, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm going to change it, but I need to. I need it for my own happiness and satisfaction, I guess. It's really important. But yeah, how do I balance it? Barely. Do I ever feel trapped, or do you see it as a necessary stepping stone? Now, this is an interesting question. I definitely have felt trapped over the years. Although wisdom and experience, you moron. Experience has taught me that it's important to keep in mind the fact that I can walk away at any moment. The fact that to remember who you are and what the journey is and what the goals are, and to kind of reinforce that sometimes. I definitely feel trapped a lot of the time, but I know I can walk away. I know I'm not locked in. I know I'll always find something, even if it's something I hate, there'll always be money. But it's frustrating when, you're there more than you should be. I was talking to a friend the other day about sometimes you end up working essentially full-time hours and you're like, oh, like this, I'm just working here now. Like, this sucks. I don't want to be here. But that's the reality. If there's nothing coming in creatively, then you might as well use the time to earn some money. It's kind of, otherwise you're just sitting around at home and nothing's happening, and now you get depressed. So, yeah. I don't really see it as like a stepping stone per se. I've done like everything there is to do in customer service, and there's no links between the creative industry and customer service, really. There's not much crossover. Sometimes you'll service events in the creative industry, but like you're not really going to get a chance to network much because you have to work. And they're not seeing you in all your glory. They're seeing you as a service worker. So, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but you have to understand that context is key. And also, people look down on the service industry and they really shouldn't, but they do. That's what society is like. That's been a big part of my experience. And I've never thought it's okay. I think it's disgraceful that people act that way. But that's the reality. How do you stay motivated when you know this isn't your forever job? A big thing that I've been doing, especially in the last year, is anytime I get anything creative at all, I throw myself into it 100%. I treat it like it's the biggest opportunity I've ever had. Like right now, doing this podcast, right? I know that this podcast is unlikely to reach a lot of people. If I'm lucky, the people that have been listening to the show for a while will continue to listen to the show and they'll get something out of it. And that gives me motivation. There's always the thing in the back of my mind of things could change. Things could evolve. There's always room for change. There's always room for life-changing moments to happen. But a big way that I stay motivated is as I say, I throw myself into it. I try to stay positive, and I also try to remember to have some gratitude for the fact that I at least get to pursue it, in some shape or form. Like, some people don't even get this opportunity. And that's something that's really resonated with me in more recent times is to remember that, not everyone gets a chance to chase their dreams. So I really have to make the very best of this and try and get as much out of it as I possibly can. This year wasn't really my fault. It was the year of music. I really tried to push music this year, and I always transition to the thing that's busiest and focus my attention on that as much as possible. I don't ignore other things. I just kind of divide my time accordingly. But, it didn't really lead to much, unfortunately. I've struggled to get any attention towards my music. I'm proud of it still. Like, I released an album, 3 music videos. I did, professional photo shoots for it. I promoted it for a year. I did everything I could do. If people don't like it or it's not good enough, then it's just whatever, like that. I guess that's it. But for me, I did that, I can always say I have an album. And that's pretty cool to be able to say that. Same way I can turn around and be like, I've done a podcast for 5 years. I've acted for 6 years, done voice acting for 6 years. I've been on television. I've done films that have reached all around the world and have won awards. I've done audio dramas that have won awards. I'm proud of what I've done, even if it's not good enough for other people. It's good enough for me, and I'm going to keep pushing until I make some progress that I would consider major progress, I suppose. But, really addressing this question, how do I stay motivated? I mean, I just try to throw myself into the work. If I get demotivated, I'll take a minute, reflect, try to find some motivation elsewhere, and throw myself back into it. Lately I've been a lot more productive, for example. And I think I caught myself feeling a little bit lazy. And I think that's more because I was just beaten up from this year, deflated from this year. But that's no excuse. Yes, you're going to feel like that sometimes and you're going to have those moments, but I can't allow that deflation to lead to inaction. That's the key. That's the big lesson I've learned. Has customer service taught you anything that helps in your creative work? That's a great question. I think it's pushed me to be a lot more open. And I've never really struggled with talking to people. I'm not an extrovert per se. Like, I'm kind of like what they call like an ambivert or an omnivert. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm perfectly happy just chilling on my own, doing my own thing. And I get shy sometimes. I get socially anxious and stuff. But I can push myself through that comfortably and make it work. And customer service is so daunting. Sometimes you're in a room full of like 200 odd people or more. Thousands of people sometimes. Or like you're the sole bartender and all eyes are on you, or you're always performing. It's a very performative role, but you're the information point. You got to be confident. You got to know your stuff. People are going to challenge you. You got to approach people, and it's nerve-wracking. Just approaching strangers. It's always nerve-wracking. I don't feel shy anymore. I just do it. And customer service has really pushed me to do that. And I'm very grateful, actually, to be honest. Do you ever draw inspiration from customers or co-workers for your writing, acting, or music? Yeah, I've written songs about shitty managers I've had in the past. I've written about customers as a concept before. I've certainly drawn upon the feelings that customer service has brought out of me. But yes, would be the short answer to that question. How does working with people influence your ability to tell stories? It doesn't. I don't really know how to answer that question, really. Like, I learned to tell stories, I suppose, through like watching other people tell stories, like people I look up to, people like CM Punk, Jim Cornette, Dave Chappelle, you know, storytellers. And I would look at the way they would break down a story and the things they would include, the things they would omit. And then I would look at my own way of communication and I lean into that. Obviously, when you're telling stories, you've got to look at how much time you have, how much attention you've got, and work within those constraints. But I don't know. I don't really feel like working with other people influences my ability to tell stories. It doesn't make a difference, really. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something there. Let me know in the comments or the feedback for the show. I'm lost on that one. I'm stumped. Do you ever feel like you're living a double life? The worker versus the artist? Yes, all the time. When I step into customer service, I'm basically on autopilot. Well, like when I'm working bar, I'm on autopilot. If I'm serving in a room, I'm on autopilot. I'm just paying attention to the variables that I need to pay attention to, and just getting on with it, really. Me, Christian, just kind of ceases to be, really. But my personality comes out. For example, when I'm chatting with coworkers, I crack jokes, I have a laugh because it keeps us sane. Because it's very easy to get depressed in this line of work, to be honest. You deal with a lot of crap sometimes you have to make the impossible possible, and it's very difficult to do that sometimes. And by that, I mean, like, you've got loads to do and maybe not enough people to do it, or not enough time to make it happen, and you just have to figure it out, make it work. Or you've got impossible demands from customers, and it just seems like they can never be pleased, and you just still have to find a way to make it work. And you just learn to kind of build up a resilience to that, I suppose, and just get on with it, really. But me as Christian is a totally different person. I often don't even really talk about my life outside of work, at work, because I'm just there to make the money and leave. It feels a very like an empty experience to me. Like, I love the conversations I have with people. Sometimes I'll talk to customers and I'll just forget that I'm even serving, and I'll just chat to them as humans, and I might talk about my life, and then they get interested, obviously, and and then I feel human again for 5 minutes. Customer service really dehumanizes you. I know I'm really heavy on customer service here, but like, it really does. You have to perform. You have to play this character, like the customer service guy. Like, there's so many things I don't subscribe to. Like, I'm not going to sit and smile all day. Fuck you. I'm a human. I don't want to be here. I will be positive and helpful, but don't expect me to walk around with a big fucking grin on my face all the time. Sometimes they're lucky I'm even there. Like, with some of the hell that people have to go through in their personal lives, and then consider this, right? You're having the worst day of your life. Now you got to walk into a room that requires your constant attention, and people who require you constantly to be on. In an office job, you can kind of escape it a little bit. Factory work, something like that, where you can escape it and just focus on your job and be alone with your thoughts. That's invaluable. Customer service, you don't get that. You're right in the thick of it, and you just have to put aside your problems And so I feel like on those days as well, like the universe really tests me and tests us and gives you like the worst customers. And it's like, there's been so many times I've been tempted to just walk out because I'm like, this is too much for a human being to have to deal with. But you know, you just have to make it work and realize that it's just a job, you know. For people whose career this is, I salute you. I don't know how you do it. I couldn't do it as a career. I just couldn't. I understand the passion element of it, but like I find it difficult sometimes when people belittle you. I've always struggled with that, and I'm very confident in who I am, but when another human being belittles me because they deem me to be lesser than based on status, like I can't rationalize that in my head. I can't discard that and be like, oh, whatever then. Like, to me, that's so unbelievably disrespectful. And I want to challenge it, but I'm like, well, I just have to just forget about it, get on with this fucking job. It's brutal sometimes, it really is. If you could make a piece of art that expresses what this feels like, wow, what would it look or sound like? I guess it would be just a song. It's a good idea, actually. I might try and do that on my next record. See if I can make a song that would explain the customer service job as a concept. Now, there's a challenge. I might try and do that on my next album. But that's what I would do. I would do a song. I don't know what it would sound like. Probably quite aggressive in nature, I imagine. There's going to be a lot of angst in there, I feel. What does working in customer service teach you about humanity? You know, when I was going through these questions and I saw that question, one thing came to mind. And I don't want to sit here and be Captain Negativity, but I think it teaches you the worst about humanity. I think it teaches you that so many people feel like they don't have any control in life, or, you know, they feel lesser than in life. And so they choose to pick customer service reps or workers as their target, as like their pinboard. Imagine it's like I put your face on a dartboard and I start throwing darts at it. Like, that's how customers treat us a lot of the time. It's very dehumanizing as an experience. And I've dealt with everything. I've dealt with like really, really posh people who were like, oh, excuse me, worker boy. Like, I've had that. I've had people click fingers at me. I've had people, you know, spit in my general direction, throw food. I mean, I've seen it all, man. And it teaches me that people lack respect. It teaches me that a lot of people are scum of the earth, to be honest. And if that sounds like you, then you should be ashamed of yourself. It's taught me that there's not a lot of patience in humanity, especially when it comes to anything to do with food. Anything like I've worked in a lot of different customer service jobs over the years, but in particular when I worked in a supermarket and when I work in hospitality, I noticed that if it's to do with food and drink, people are especially disrespectful. It's like, even before I got into customer service, I never would have dreamed of speaking to people the way I've been spoken to. You know, I understand being disappointed with like the service you've received sometimes, like if you feel ignored or like people, you know, aren't making any effort. Like, I get that, but like I've got like, I always go out of my way for people. Always. I do the job to the best of my ability. But if you're rude, I'm going to match your energy. I'm not going to, you know, they say kill 'em with kindness. I don't do that. Fuck that. Like, no, don't disrespect me. You show respect. I always think about the very first person who trained me in hospitality, and they said the best way to think about it is, imagine you're inviting someone into your home. How would you treat them? How far would you go? And I always look at hospitality like that. Make people feel as comfortable and as welcome as possible. Now, the flip of that is, I've invited you into my home. If you're going to disrespect me, get the fuck out of my home. But this is the thing. In customer service, there's this pressure like, oh no, we've got to please everyone. Oh no, the customer's always right. And it's like, bullshit. No, they're not. What? Like, why can't we just get rid of these disrespectful people? I don't want them here. Do you want them here? No, then let's get rid of them. Like, I don't want their money. I don't want anything to do with them. Get them the hell away from me. And that's the way I look at it, and you can't change my mind on that. But yeah, it's taught me that people just lack basic humility, I guess. It's very disappointing. Every once in a while, there'll be a lovely person who might tip you or just be really lovely and genuine. But I don't know, every time I'm dealing with a customer, I guess I just brace myself, and then whatever happens, happens. That's what it's like. You're dealing with constant anxiety. Why do you think society undervalues service workers so much? I think I've answered variations of this question before, but basically they deem it to be a low-skilled job that anyone can do. And let me set the record straight for all time. Customer service workers unite here. You'll all agree with me here. There is nothing easy about working in customer service. And the reason is not to do with the tasks themselves. It's to do with the plate spinning that you have to do. All of the different jobs you have to manage at one time. You have to have impeccable timing. You have to figure out how things are going to, for example, delay you and how to counteract that. So, for example, let's say I'm at the bar and I've just been asked to do cocktails, right? That's going to slow me down by at least 10, maybe 15 minutes, depending on the cocktails that have been asked to be made, depending on how many there are. Now everything gets pushed back and I have to figure out how to address that. If it's just me, I've got to speed up. I've got to try and counteract that as best I can. If there's people around, maybe I can grab someone and be like, hey, can you just do these few jobs for me so I can play catch up? There's so much that you don't see. You think it's just, delivering a few plates to a table. I mean, if that's your estimation of what customer service is, then you're ignorant and you have no idea. I think everyone should have to work 6 months in customer service, and then maybe you can turn around and tell me that it's not a hard job. I mean, look, it's a thankless job. You get paid minimum wage. You get treated like disrespectfully all the time. You come home exhausted. You often have to wear clothes and shoes that, quite frankly, do not match the job you're doing. Like dress shoes when you're running around all the time, and it's destroying your feet. And it's hard, like, moving around in a space when you're wearing those kind of clothes. It's exhausting. The whole thing is exhausting. And, on top of that, now you got to deal with these disrespectful people as well that look down on you. Because what? Because they studied, like, I don't know, a law degree, or they're a doctor or whatever, and they just think like, oh, you're here to serve me. You're my slave or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know why society undervalues service workers, but I think, at the end of the day, you're undervaluing something that is highly valuable. You're undervaluing and underappreciating something that takes a lot of hard work to achieve, to pull off. You think about the very best restaurants that are out there. The reason that they're the best restaurants is because of that team that is working tirelessly to make sure that the service you receive is impeccable and not delayed in any shape or form. A lot of hard work goes into that you don't see. And that maybe is the reason why. How does it feel to work in an industry built around pleasing others while often being mistreated yourself? It's funny. Like, one thing that's always kind of irritated me is sometimes you end up like being told to treat VIPs or celebrities differently. I treat everyone the same way. I don't care who it is. The job is to serve people. I will serve them to the best of my ability. But yeah, it when it happens, when you get mistreated, there's this moment where you stop and you think, I could just walk off right now. I could just drop everything, just walk out. And I've been tempted many times. And I've seen coworkers do it, and I respect them for it. I think you got to weigh it up in your head. How much is it worth? How much is your self-respect worth? And the answer to that question is your self-respect is worth a hell of a lot more than this low-paid job where you're being disrespected. That's the reality. People feel trapped. People feel like they can't do anything. And the reality is you can, but you've got to be courageous. You've got to fight a little bit, and it's scary. It's scary to dip your foot in those waters and stand up for yourself against customers, against a dodgy manager, whatever the case may be. It's hard. It really is. And sometimes it can feel brutal when, you're really struggling and you see, all these customers are really happy, but, you're miserable. It's a bit of a mind fuck, to be honest. So I think you have to try to disassociate yourself from it as much as possible. And I think this is really where the team dynamic comes into play. You really rely on your team in those moments and banter and having fun. If you've got a good relationship with your team, it makes it more bearable, I think. And I try to lean into that as much as I can. Do you think customer service work changes your empathy for better or worse? I don't let it affect my empathy. If anything, I use it to reaffirm my thoughts and feelings about how I approach things. I'm not going to allow ignorance and a lack of empathy from other people. I'm not going to allow that to affect me. I keep it in mind, as a kind of a what not to do kind of scenario, but I don't let it affect me. The last thing I would want to become is one of them, a ignorant customer. What would a fair, human-centered version of hospitality look like? Isn't hospitality already kind of human-centered? I don't really know what that means. Fair, human-centered version of hospitality. I don't know how it could really be fair. I don't know how to answer that question. I'm going to move on. Final questions. What keeps you going when it gets hard? The team. Jokes, cracking jokes. Any chance to go on my phone and talk to normal people. Or try and get some cheeky creative work done. Counting down the hours until I get to leave. That, only 5 hours to go, 3 hours, 2 hours. I literally do that, and it's bad, but that's how it is. How do you protect your creativity from being drained by this work? Trying to have decent amounts of rest periods, and as I mentioned earlier, trying to find motivation again, either from others or from taking a break and then coming back to things. You have to find a new lease on life, or sometimes having a day off really helps. Helps me, certainly. Having a day off, I think, is a big aspect to this. What do you dream about when you're behind the bar or folded napkins or clocking out? I normally just daydream about really basic stuff, I got to send these emails, or I've got to work on this thing. I'm normally thinking about stuff I need to work on. I need to learn these lines. But yeah, I guess I've daydreamed about future scenarios. My favorite daydream is I'm sitting being interviewed on a show something like Parkinson or you know, like a serious interview show, and it's like someone interviewing me about my life, and I'm a successful actor or musician or something. Yes, I know it's sad, but who cares? It's a dream. How do you define success for yourself beyond the paycheck? I can tell you now, there's no success in the paycheck. There's nothing there. Just progress. You know, like, look, as I said many times, if I was earning regularly from creative jobs, I would consider that a success for myself. If someone is listening and they are stuck in a similar job, what would you say to them? Now, that's the big question, isn't it? Okay, this isn't forever. Stay strong. Hang in there. Have a plan. And if you don't know what your goals are right now, try to ascertain what that goal is, what that aim is for you. And then build a plan. Get short-term goals that are going to build you towards that. Never stop working on things, ever. Even if you've only got a little bit of time, never stop working, because you will just fall into the spiral and get stuck in this job, and then that's it. So don't get stuck. Make progress instead. Work on making some progress. That's the key. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you got something out of this, hopefully. I hope it wasn't too serious. I know the other 2 episodes were a bit more happy-go-lucky, but I don't know, a lot of these questions were pretty serious, and this is not something I take lightly. I mean, it's something I've had to do on and off for like 11 years, so I think I've learned a lot about it, and I've got some pretty strong opinions, and I know a lot of people agree with me on this that have worked in the industry. But I hope it was useful in some way. I hope it was beneficial, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.